Hey, good evening, everybody. Let's start with our motivation. And think of how we all construct these identities that we think we are. And then when we enter social situations, we try and figure out how our identity fits in with all the other people around. And so we think, what is the hierarchy in this social situation? Who are the important people? Who are the unimportant people? Sometimes we look at the important people and we think, oh, I want to meet them. Sometimes we look at them and we think, oh, I'm afraid of them. Sometimes we look at them and say, I'm jealous of them. So we have all these conceptions and all this way that we hierarchically rank others and how we see ourselves ranked with them. Are we in the upper group? If so, are people showing us enough respect? Are we on the lower end? If so, how do we still stick up for ourselves? So many conceptions, so stressful in figuring out these social situations and how we fit in. And then, of course, wanting to make a good impression on others, and so trying to figure out what they see as important, what they see as good, and then trying to make ourselves become that, or at least show the image that we are that. So it really gets to be quite stressful. And yet, when we look with the eyes of wisdom, first of all, there's no separate person there in any of us. So there's no separate person to rank in any kind of order. Second, all the roles are just roles, things made up by human beings. They have no intrinsic value or meaning in and of themselves. And third, when you look at the basic thing of all the beings in that social situation, we're all exactly the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. So all the ways that we divide ourselves up are really quite superficial and rather silly when you look at that basic wish that all of us share. Very heartfelt wish to be safe, to be happy, to be protected, and not to suffer in any sort of way. So if we come back to that as one of the ways in which we're all common, then we can begin to shift how we relate to this group, so that it's not where do I fit in and how do I rank, but how can I be a benefit? How can I connect? What can I give, and to who can I give it? And so in this way, when we change our whole way of thinking, then the whole way we are changes as well, as does our own internal feeling. And so in this way, let's come back to our common equality. Let's come back to there not being some kind of self-existent person, and realizing that all these social relationships are simply made-up roles, nothing else. And so within that, let's bring forth our love and compassion for all beings, wanting to become a Buddha for their benefit. Did you get what I mean about all these social situations and the worry and the stress and how do I fit in? And every time before I go to a conference, I get so stressed in my mind, you know, because the mind starts going, oh, who are all these people? And do I fit in? What's going to happen? Do I belong? I'm not one of the big shots. Oh, but I want to be a big shot, but I'm not. Maybe I'm just a little guy. No, I'm not a little guy. I don't respect. You know, the mind gets so caught up in all this stupid adagios. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, really. And it's so much just plain old made up junk. Yeah, because if we look, you know, if we're looking on the side of, you know, emptiness and so on, there's no separate person there to be ranked, because there's no separate person there. And also on the side of emptiness, all these social roles and all the ranking, it's all just stuff we made up. There's nothing there. There's no inherently existent important people or inherently existent big shots or inherently existent little people. You know, social roles are just completely fabricated by the conceptual mind. Yeah. And then if we look on the side of bodhicitta, now we all want to be happy and nobody wants to suffer, so we're all exactly the same. So let's get rid of all this other stuff that comes up and really look at the situation in terms of how can I be a benefit? Because these beings have been kind to me before. It's a totally different way than, oh, how do I fit in here? You know, just how can I be a benefit? Okay. So, let's come back to our things. I wanted to say, if you want more light, it might be helpful to open the blinds. I know that's kind of a revolutionary idea. I went to college, you know. I learned things there. More light, isn't there? Okay. Glasses. 50,000 prostrations.
I'll do that 3 times.
Okay. Okay, so we're on question number 7, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so make an outline of all the types of exalted wisdom of the fundamental vehicle path of seeing and describe what each is or does. Okay, so what are the main outlines of the path of seeing, the 3, oh, I shouldn't tell you how many. But there's 3, okay, I told you. The 3 categories of them, what are they? Just the main outline. Yeah?
Exalted wisdom meditative equipoise.
Okay.
The exalted wisdom of subsequent attainments.
Mm-hmm.
And then neither exalted wisdom or
okay, so the exalted wisdom meditative equipoise, the exalted wisdom of subsequent attainment, and then that which is neither of those two. Okay, so what's the exalted wisdom of meditative equipoise? What does it do? Well, before, okay, there's three kinds of it, but what does it do first?
Perceives reality.
Okay, directly perceives emptiness. Okay, there's three kinds. What are they?
Uninterrupted paths.
Liberated paths.
Okay, so uninterrupted path, liberated path, and neither. Don't look at your notes. You should have this known by now. And it's not my fault if you didn't review your test. Is it? Okay, so what is the uninterrupted path do?
It's mind that's abandoning the afflictions.
Okay, so it's abandoning the afflictions. Why is it called uninterrupted path?
Because you go directly from that meditative session into the liberated path without interruption.
Okay, so you go directly in from the uninterrupted path into the liberated path without any interruption. And what's the liberated path?
The afflictions are abandoned.
You have abandoned them in such a way that they
Can't return.
can't return. Okay, so does the uninterrupted path and liberated path, do they have the same object?
Yes.
Yeah, what's their object? Emptiness. Okay. And then what's the meditative equipoise that's neither?
All other meditative equipoises on emptiness that are not where things have been abandoned, but we haven't moved to a place where we're ready to abandon the next level. So all other meditations that are.
Okay, so the other meditations on emptiness, okay, that aren't the uninterrupted path or liberated, so they aren't abandoning or having abandoned, okay, but you're still meditating on emptiness, but they aren't strong enough yet to go up to the next uninterrupted path. And what's the object of that meditative equipoise?
Emptiness.
Also emptiness. Okay. Okay. And so then what's the exalted wisdom of subsequent attainment? What does that do?
When you're out of meditative equipoise,
Okay.
and things appear to be truly existent, but you don't grasp, it's sort of like an illusion. The mind knows that it's realized emptiness in meditative equipoise, so the appearance of true existence is there, but there's no attachment, there's no sense, no grasping at it.
Okay. So it's there's still the appearance of true existence, but you don't believe it.
Right.
Okay. And so what are the different kinds of subsequent attainment minds?
Method and wisdom.
Okay, and so method and wisdom, what do they do?
The method side is meditating on realization.
Uh-huh. Method side's meditating on renunciation.
And the wisdom side is contemplating the illusory nature.
And the wisdom side contemplates the illusory nature. Okay. Yes?
Are these meditative minds always, or is this the kind of the state of a wisdom that happens because you've had the...
This is you're not sitting in meditation at this point.
Okay,
You know, you're having breakfast.
yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at the cats. You're talking with the insurance agent. Yeah, so you're doing all these kinds of things. Okay, and then what's the third main kind of wisdom?
The exalted wisdom, that's neither.
That's neither. Okay, and what's that?
So when it's in meditative equipoise, it's not comprehending renunciation. And when it's out of meditative equipoise, it's generating renunciation. It's not manifest. They're like, the renunciation is not manifest in the mind meditating on emptiness. And when you come out of meditative equipoise and emptiness, the renunciation arises in the mind, but the emptiness is not.
Okay, so it's the mind, the exalted wisdoms that are kind of in latent or supportive roles at the time. So when a hearer is meditating on emptiness, the object is emptiness. The motivation is renunciation, but that renunciation is not manifest in that mind at the time. Okay? When you're out of meditative equipoise, you might be thinking about renunciation. You know, your wisdom is there, but it's not manifest. Okay? So what about if a hearer is meditating on love? Then where does that fit in? Among these?
Maybe not an exalted wisdom.
That would be neither.
In the need,
Yeah, it's
unobstructed or liberated.
no, it's not in the meditative equipoise.
It's not
Yeah.
an attainment either.
It's not, okay, so it's in the one that's neither meditative equipoise nor subsequent attainment.
Why is it an exalted wisdom? Just
Because it's supported by your understanding of emptiness. Okay. Now, what's interesting, do you think a hearer ever gets angry?
Yes, because they have not completely eliminated all the afflictions.
Yeah. They haven't eliminated the afflictions. So do you think their anger is ever strong enough to be manifest, where they really get really angry?
That seems like that would be difficult.
Especially after the path of sin.
Yeah, well, they are at the path of seeing.
It seems like the force of their realizations would kind of stay with them, so it couldn't be so real, because the illusory nature thing would be kind of mode.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think that they would have some kind of awareness of the illusory nature of it. It seems like they can get angry. It's quite interesting when in the Pali system, when they talk about stream enterers, you know, who are on the path of seeing, you know, they say, well, they can have lust and they can get angry, and you know, it's in our tradition when we talk about them, yeah, you know, maybe kind of they could, but it seems like, you know, they should be more protected than they are. But in the Pali tradition, they talk about it just like
Like a mental state or acting on it?
well,
Is it like
I
if they
don't-
have stories of somebody like throwing somebody out of their house?
yeah. Right. Yeah, when you think of it, you know, there's a big difference between somebody mentally getting angry and somebody acting on it. Yeah. Yeah. So if you look at it that way, okay, mentally getting angry, maybe that happens, you know, they forget their thing that, you know, things are like illusion, and they get upset. But it's interesting because in the, you know, from the prasangika tenets, we're looking at the stream mentors and seeing that they've realized the emptiness of persons and the emptiness of phenomena. In the Pali tradition, when they look at them, they've just realized the selflessness of person, but not the selflessness of phenomena. Yeah, and so maybe that has something to do also with the way they describe how the stream enterers are. But they do say, you know, also in the Prasangika version, that the stream enterer within 7 lifetimes can become an arhat. Not necessarily guaranteed, but they can accumulate the merit within 7 lifetimes. But they also can be reborn in the desire realm. You know, I think, you know, up to 7 lifetimes. So, yeah. So there's still karma for rebirth there that hasn't been purified. And getting born in the desire realm is it's a dangerous situation, isn't it? Yeah, it's very dangerous. So it's not like you've, you know, realize emptiness and okay, it's clear sailing from now on. Yeah, because they don't have control over the rebirth process. Yeah, they still can get reborn in the desire realm. Yeah. They can't create negative karma that leads to rebirth in the lower realms. Yeah. Nor can any previously created negative karma that would lead to rebirth in the lower realms ripen. But they're still very much under the influence of karma. Yeah. So this kind of thing I think is important to understand, because lots of times, like people will have some experience of, you know, voidness, something void or a lack or feeling different in their mind. And first of all, they go right away to I realized emptiness, which you're not sure if that's actually what's happened or not. And second of all, they think, oh, well, I got it now, so now it should be clean sailing. Yeah? So now I shouldn't have any more problems. I shouldn't get angry anymore. I shouldn't have to be especially mindful of my mind anymore because I've had this realization, and it's all clear sailing now. So that's quite dangerous. Yeah, that kind of take on one's experience, because it can actually lead us to be quite reckless, and especially if what we had wasn't a real direct perception of emptiness. It was just some experience we have, because our mind can experience all sorts of things, you know. Then we could really be getting ourselves in hot water, you know, say, oh, I've realized something when we haven't realized it, and getting kind of complacent and smug. So actually, when you have a realization of emptiness, it should make us more heedful, more careful about our behavior, because the deeper our understanding of emptiness, the more respect for dependent arising. Okay, so our respect for the law of karma and its effects should increase. We should be more mindful about our behavior, you know, keep our precepts better. Yeah. So it shouldn't be a time when we just say, oh, okay, I'm the stream enterer now, I can't be born in the lower realms, only 7 more lifetimes, let's drink some tea and have some ice cream here. Yeah? You can see how sometimes our old samsaric mind kind of sneaks in there, you know, how we think that it's, you know, you only get these realizations, but it's not like your mind's really been transformed, because you get the realization, but what you really want to do is just relax and sit at the beach. Yeah? That's how we think of it, isn't it? Oh, get that realization. Then I don't have to work so hard, and I can sit at the beach and relax. But we have to really think, well, if you have that realization, how is that going to impact how you live your life? Yeah? How is that going to impact how you live your life? What do you think?
Won't be on the beach.
Huh?
Won't be on the beach.
Yeah.
Careful, it's not going to.
Yeah. It what?
If you're not careful, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So it should impact our life to make us really have much more conviction in the Dharma and be much more careful with our actions. Yeah.
And have a sense of urgency.
Yeah, and have more of a sense of urgency, because we've had some experience now. You know, we can, if you get to that stage, you've entered the stream, you know, you're on your way to nirvana. You know, who wants to mess around going to movies when you're on your way to nirvana and you really see that nirvana is going to be the ultimate happiness? Okay, so a stream enterer may still go to movies, but they're not going to movies because they want to be entertained. You know, if they go to movies, they're going to be, you know, have a mind of seeing things like illusion and so on, and, you know, bring whatever experience they have into the path. So it doesn't mean you all of a sudden become stiff as a board and you just go like, I've realized emptiness. You know, and you're frozen in space somehow. Okay, yeah, I mean, stream enters, you know, might still, you know, watch a movie and eat chocolate cake and, you know, take their dog for a walk. But the way they're going to see things when they're doing this is going to be different. Yeah.
It'd be a really silly question, but can anybody, because I've always had the, you know, the teachings from the Buddhist worldview, can anybody realize the emptiness of self and phenomena and have that direct perception and not have the motivation of renunciation or have the motivation of getting out of samsara?
Okay, so can you have that direct realization of emptiness without having renunciation or bodhicitta or, you know, something like that? From a Buddhist viewpoint, no. You can have a conceptual realization of emptiness without having renunciation or bodhicitta. But for the direct perception,
You need those motivations.
yeah, you need those motivations. Yeah.
How would that work to have a inferential perception? Wouldn't that certainly make you suddenly have renunciation? Or I can't imagine how you'd uncouple those things.
Okay, so it's hard to think of how to uncouple them. They talk about the high faculty disciples, and they really want to understand what is the cause of samsara. Okay, and okay, it's ignorance. How does ignorance conceive or grasp at the object? Is it possible to eliminate ignorance? How is it possible to eliminate ignorance? And so this high faculty disciple really wants to understand all of that. And so that leads them into meditating on emptiness. And they get a conceptual realization of emptiness, like an inference. Okay, and then that would really put them in to, you know, wanting to gain real renunciation or wanting to gain real bodhicitta, because now they see it's possible to eliminate the defilements from the mind.
So you can say in a way that the motivation was there, but it wasn't like a spontaneous.
Right.
Was that,
Yeah, they must have had some
Yeah.
idea of renunciation. Otherwise, who would be thinking of emptiness? Yeah. You know, unless you're playing around with it as a nice philosophical idea. Yeah. But I think even if you got like an actual inference that that's supposedly something that really shakes you. Yeah. So that's going to have a strong impact on the life. Okay. Next question. Make an outline of all the types of exalted wisdom of the fundamental vehicle path of meditation and describe what each one is or does. Okay. So?
Well, this one I think some of us found difficult. I'll just give you what I came up with.
Okay.
So I had an approacher to once returner, an abider to once returner, approacher to non-returner, abider to non-returner, approacher to arhatship, and abider in arhatship. I laid it out that way.
Actually, this is more the outlines of the type of exalted wisdom.
Yeah. And I guess
So it's similar to the previous question, except regarding the path of meditation. Okay, so what are the kinds of exalted wisdom?
I guess it'd be the same.
Yeah.
Huh?
I guess it'd be the same.
The outline is basically the same, except what about there's a difference in there between path of seeing and path of meditation. What do you have on path of seeing, and what do you have on path of meditation in terms of the uninterrupted and the liberated paths?
Well, on the path of seeing, you only have it once. But on the path of meditation, you go from uninterrupted path to liberated path say 9 times, but anyway, you're eliminating the different levels of afflictions throughout that process. So you go
Okay.
through several times.
Okay, so with the path of seeing, you're eliminating what kind of obscurations?
I mean,
With
the acquired ones.
The acquired afflictions.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you just have one uninterrupted path and one liberated path. And those are, remember, we have the knowledges and the fortitudes, or the fortitudes first and then the knowledges. Okay, so the fortitudes are what?
They're the four, they're
How many of them are
There's
there?
8.
There's 8 fortitudes, and what are they?
they're in relation to the object and subject of each of the Four Noble Truths.
Okay, they're related to the object and subject of each of the Four Noble Truths. And what kind of path are they?
They're uninterrupted.
They're the uninterrupted paths. Okay, and then what are the 8 knowledges?
They're liberated paths.
They're liberated paths, and
And it's forbearance and knowledge with relation to each of the Four Noble Truths.
okay, it's forbearance and knowledge with relationship to each of the Four Noble Truths. That's only 4.
But it's the object of true suffering, for example, and then
The subject of true suffering. Okay, yeah. So it has to do with the object and the subject.
And they're synonymous.
Huh?
And they're synonymous.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
confusing.
Huh?
And that's confusing. That they're synonymous.
That all the knowledges are synonymous.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean,
They're all
I guess
perceiving
they're all
emptiness.
perceiving emptiness.
They're all perceiving emptiness. And to the mind that has direct perception, the emptiness of true suffering and the emptiness of true origin doesn't look any different. Okay, emptiness is emptiness. Yeah, it's not divided up. So that's the path of seeing. What's going on the path of meditation?
81 afflictions.
Huh?
The 81 afflictions of
Okay.
the desire, form, and formless. realm.
Yes, you're eliminating the 81 afflictions of the desire, form, and formless realm. And are those ones acquired or innate?
those are innate.
Innate. Okay? And so how does those 81 afflictions fit in with your liberated path and you're in an uninterrupted path and your liberated path?
Each uninterrupted path is eliminating a set of 9 of the afflictions.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are 9 of those and then 8 liberated paths, because the one that follows the last uninterrupted path is the path.
Path of no more learning. Okay. So there's the way we have. Some schools say that you eliminate the 81 sequentially. Okay. Here they're eliminated in 9. 9 sets. You have 9 uninterrupted paths, 8 liberated paths, because your last liberated path is actually the path of no more learning. Okay. And so what you're eliminating are the innate afflictions of the 3 realms altogether. Okay, so the big of the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm is your first of the 9. The middle of the big of those 3 realms is the second of the 9. And so it's the 9 uninterrupted and liberated paths are differentiated in terms of what level of obscurations they're eliminating. Okay? Because the more entrenched certain obscurations are, the stronger your realization of emptiness has to be, and the more merit you have to have in order to overcome them. Okay? Good. Okay, so we'll continue with the next 3 questions next week, because I want to talk a little bit about bodhicitta, so you better review. You did?
That one is hard.
Yeah. Okay, but it does give you an idea about how there's a structure to the path and how different things are eliminated at different times and how, you know, it's not like poof and everything's gone, and, you know, how you have to really integrate your meditative time with what you're doing in your daily life when you're walking around. Yeah, because it's not just like that your meditative time is what's important and then you get up and you just, you know, do whatever. Yeah. And so seeing that that's the case for the Aryas, then we really have to see when we do retreat that you know, we have to try as much as possible too to make our meditation time and our break time things that complement each other. Yeah. Because if in our break time we just forget everything we meditated about, then when we sit down to meditate, we're starting all over again. Yeah? But if we make our break time something in which we really, you know, practice what we meditated on, you know, and accustom ourselves more to that view in the break time, then it's easier when we sit down. Okay? Okay, so then last week we started talking about the 7-point instruction of cause and effect. Okay, and that is based on the practice of equanimity. Okay, and so we talked about how all sentient beings have been our parents. Okay, and since there's beginningless samsara and our mind streams are beginningless, then lots of time to be reborn, you know, as in all sorts of relationships with each other. And so in thinking about that, it really helps us see that who we think we are isn't who we are, and who we think others are isn't who they are. In other words, who somebody is isn't just who they appear to be this lifetime. Yeah, so even, you know, thinking about this, that we've had different relationships with different people in different lifetimes, yeah, it really rattles our sense of self, and it rattles our sense of who other people are. Don't you think? Does it rattle you a little bit? Because it's not like I've been permanent me, and okay, so, you know, you were my mother one life, and you were my mother the next life, and then you were, you know. But it's like, wait a minute, sometimes we were both dogs and you were my mother. Yeah. So, you know, and so who people are, who we are, we begin to see, oh, this life just isn't it. We aren't one solid person from this lifetime. Yeah. And it really begins to broaden our perspective. So that we see that other people have been equally dear to us as have our parents of this lifetime. Yeah? So we can't just be attached to our parents of this lifetime, because they, you know, that's just this lifetime. Next lifetime it's going to be different. Previous lifetimes it's going to be, you know, it was different. So it makes us ask, you know, well, why do I cherish the parents of this lifetime so much, and I ignore all the other ones? Yeah? Makes us ask that, doesn't it? You know, or why am I so mad at my parents of this lifetime and not so mad at all the other ones? And why am I mad at parents anyway? Because if we look at you know, that brings us into the next meditation, seeing the kindness of our parents. You know, if we really look at what it entails, we see the incredible kindness that our parents have shown us. Yeah. I remember one person told me that she did this meditation and it made her get so attached to her parents of this lifetime. You know, she said she wasn't nearly as attached to them until she did this meditation. And then I said, well, that's because you didn't do the equanimity one beforehand. you know, and you didn't do the one of all sentient beings have been my parents beforehand. Because if you've done, you know, if you have a sense that all sentient beings have been our parents beforehand, then you see meditating on the kindness of this life's parents is an example that you use to generalize to all the previous lives. Okay? But it's interesting not only to think of, you know, what our parents have done, you know, how they've given us our body and kept us alive when we were incapable of keeping ourselves alive. Because that's true, isn't it? As babies, totally incapable of keeping ourselves alive. Totally dependent on others, you know. And how they gave us an education and they taught us some manners and they put up with all sorts of stuff from us. Yeah, I mean, just think what you did as a kid. Do you have, you know, do you have any awareness of what your parents were going through when you were a kid? You know, even now we just think me, me, me. And even as adults, when we look back, we don't think of what our parents were going through in their lives when they were raising us. We only think of what we experienced because of how our parents treated us during that time. It's true, isn't it? Yeah? You know, they yelled at me, they did this, they did that, they did this, they did that. But what was going on in their lives? Well, they were bringing up kids. Yeah? I mean, my mom was dealing with cancer. I was like out to lunch, you know? Yeah, some people in their families, the parents are dealing with substance abuse or mental health issues or getting laid off or, you know, relationship problems or who knows what our parents were going through. But did we ever really stop to think about that? Yeah, what life was bringing them when at the same time they were trying to rear us. Yeah, we usually don't. Yeah, we're just thinking how it looked from our side. So this meditation really takes us out of that and really seeing, okay, what was going on with our parents? And then also thinking not only how human parents take care of their young, but also looking at animal parents and how they take care of their young. And that can be so touching sometimes when you look at it. Yeah, if you've ever watched, you know, a mother dog with her puppies or a mother cat with her kittens. When I went to Copan in 1975, there was a dog there, an old beat-up dog. Her name was Sasha, and she was crippled. She couldn't walk. Her back two legs, she couldn't stand on them, so she dragged herself along. And she got hurt a lot, and there were like maggots sometimes in her head, and she had a litter of puppies, and she just loved those puppies so much. I mean, she was in such ragged, suffering shape herself, and she loved those puppies, and she nursed them, and she licked them, and she kept them clean, and she took care of them, and she couldn't even walk herself and had maggots in her head. You know, so you really look at that sometimes, at how the animals even care for their young. And just think about, you know, the mama turkeys. And, you know, they're so worried about their chicks getting eaten by coyotes or, you know, vultures or something like that. So they sit on them, they protect them, you know, there was one, what is it, the grouse, wasn't it? They do, what was it that they do to protect their young?
They pretend like her wing is wounded. She let it drag behind her so she can get them away from the chicks.
Okay, so that the
coyote would go after
to her,
She's wounded.
and okay, so she would make it look like she's wounded, dragging her wing, and then her chicks could get away. You know, and so that way she would distract the coyote to protect her chicks. Yeah, so a mama grouse. Yeah, so you look, and you know, it's just really astounding sometimes how the parents in different species take care of their young. And I have a little wren house outside of my cabin, and you know, Mama and Papa Wren in the spring, they are busy, unbelievable. They are zooming in and out of that, you know, they're just, you know, trying to get enough food to feed their babies and getting pretty exhausted because their kids have big mouths. They're constantly hungry. Yeah. So, you know, you really think about it and how in so many lifetimes we've been taken care of by parents who have been kind to us and who have really sacrificed themselves for us and put themselves in danger in order to protect us. Yeah? And so when you really think about that, you know, I mean, think of what our parents did just to get the money to support us when we were growing up. You know, having to go out and go to work and do this and that and so much money, you know, money hassles, and they want to buy a house, but do they have enough money, and they have a mortgage, and how are they going to make mortgage payments, and here are all these kids and they want them to go to college, but you know, how do you get them to go to college, or how do you make sure that they, you know, grow up to be good citizens? And you know, you're always thinking about that in terms of your kids. And your kids have some problem, or they, you know, they're quarrelsome, and you're so concerned, how are they going to make it in the world? Yeah, or you have a special needs child, and you think, what are they going to do when I'm not here? And so all the time, you know, parents just thinking about how to take care of their kids. Yeah. It's a big thing on them. And to think that, you know, okay, our present parents have had that kind of concern for us, but so have all the other sentient beings around us, because they've all been our parents in some lifetime, previous lifetime. Yeah? So we aren't strangers, we aren't, you know, unknown to each other, but we've been in this very intimate relationship, and we've received so much kindness from them, you know, in beginningless lifetimes. And so when you meditate very, very deeply on that, I mean, it really moves your heart, very much moves your heart. And when you look at others, you look at them, you know, in a very, very different way. And out of that naturally comes the wish to repay their kindness, which is the third step. You know, in other words, when we've really meditated deeply on how much kindness we've received, then automatically we want to repay it. You don't have to make some kind of special effort. Yeah, that seems to be some kind of quality of us sentient beings, that when we actually realize the kindness we've received, automatically we want to repay it. Yeah. So our big challenge is to really see the kindness we've received. You know? And to do that, we have to pull ourselves out of just thinking about me. Okay? Okay, so from that third one, wanting to repay the kindness, then we go to the fourth one, which is heartwarming love. So heartwarming love is seeing sentient beings in beauty. Okay? So seeing them as lovable. Yeah, seeing them in beauty and seeing them in lovable, it means the same thing. It doesn't mean you see them as physically beautiful. Yeah, it means you see them as totally lovable. I had a friend in Israel who worked at a hospital, and I think she was a nurse or maybe a physical therapist, but there was one old man on her unit. Maybe, you know, not so old, but he was really, you know, not in very good health, and she found it so difficult to work with him because he was kind of smelly and not always not so cooperative, and he was in pain a lot, and she found it very hard to work with him. His wife came in, and she told me his wife sat beside him one day and then looked at my friend and said, "Isn't he wonderful? Isn't he beautiful?" And my friend was like so shocked. Oh, she thinks he's beautiful. She thinks he's wonderful. It's like, it was such a shock to her that somebody could feel this way. But that's exactly how his wife felt. Like, she looked at him, and here was this old, kind of ill, smelly man, and all she saw was like this wonderful, beautiful human being there. Yeah? So that's where the heartwarming love is taking us. Yeah? Is no matter who we're looking at, what their body looks like, what kind of species they are, you know, how they're acting, that we look at them and we just say, wow, how beautiful, how totally lovable, how endearing they are. Yeah? So you look at one of the grasshoppers, yeah, how endearing. Or in the spring, one of the ticks, you know, how sweet. Yeah, this wonderful, kind, sentient being. Yeah, imagine what it would be like to have a mind that reacted that way. What would that be like for you? Yeah, what would that be like? So that when somebody came in and said to you, please do this, or why didn't you do that? What you saw was this incredibly wonderful, lovable, sentient being. Wouldn't that be astounding? Do you think that's possible, or do you think talking about this is la la land? Do you think it's possible?
Yeah, it's possible. But only because, like, I look at someone like, you know, His Holiness, or, you know, someone like that who seems like they're close to that. And then I go, well, okay, that's possible.
Yeah.
But you don't see it a lot.
Yeah, so we don't see so many role models of it necessarily, but just even seeing one person like His Holiness, who seems to greet everybody like that, gives us some feeling of, wow, it is possible. Yeah.
There's a woman in Washington, D.C. told me this story about her friend who just kind of goes around like that, and there was a woman on the public bus that was going kind of crazy on people and screaming and seeing things that weren't there, and she just went up to her and was really, really friendly and said, oh, you know, the dragons aren't here today, they're not here. And the woman went, oh, okay, and sat down with her, and they started talking. And I mean, I don't know how this woman goes around doing this.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what that is. But
Yeah.
you could just move in on that woman that everyone was afraid of. Going, ooh, is she crazy?
Yeah, so on the bus, somebody who's like, people are getting really nervous because they have mental problems and they're seeing things that aren't there. And then this woman goes up and just says, oh, the dragons aren't here today. And
Yes, it's
yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, actually I had a friend, her husband was a police officer, and she told me that one time, you know, he was dealing with somebody who, again, was seeing things that weren't there, and, like, you know, had a gun. It was like, this guy's gonna after me and I've got to do something. And the police officer went up and said, look, I'm a police officer. I will tell him to go away and he will listen to me. And the cop turned and just looked at empty space and said, look, you go away and you do not damage this person, you know, and I'm telling you this and you obey, you know, and then turned back to the person and said, look, he's gone now, so you can, you know, drop your gun. And isn't that amazing? Yeah. You know, just being able to tune into where somebody's at with incredible kindness and skill, Amazing skill like that. Yeah. Okay, so you see people like that, and then you think, oh, it's possible, you know. This comes through mind training. That's why it's called mind training, isn't it? Through training our minds to cultivate that kind of view. Okay? So the fourth, and sometimes the fourth one, it's called heartwarming love. And then the fifth one is compassion. But then they talk about also love and compassion. When they talk about heartwarming love and compassion, there's a fixed order. First you have to have heartwarming love, then you have compassion. Okay, because you have to see them in beauty before you can have compassion for them. But in terms of love and compassion in general, there's no fixed order. Sometimes you can have compassion before and that leads you to love, or you have love and that leads you to compassion. Because love is the wish for sentient beings to have happiness in its causes, and compassion for the wish to them to be free of suffering in its causes. Okay, so it could be, you know, like in the taking and giving meditation, we'll get to that. But first you take the suffering, then you give the happiness. So in that kind of meditation, first you're cultivating compassion, then you're cultivating love. You know, because it's hard to think of them being happy before you remove their suffering. But then in other situations, you may want to really focus on them being happy and wish them happiness, and then that will invigorate your mind that wants to free them from their suffering. Okay? So the kind of love and compassion that we're cultivating here in the Mahayana is directed towards all sentient beings, because remember, it's based on equanimity, on seeing all sentient beings as our parents, remembering all of their kindness when they were our parents, wanting to repay that, having heartwarming love towards them. Okay, so this equanimity that levels the playing field, that enables us to have this, extend this feeling towards everybody, is really, really important. You know, and that's what makes the difference between our ordinary love and our ordinary compassion. Because our ordinary love is for the people that we like, you know. You are nice to me. You gave me present, you agree with my ideas, okay, you have, you know, I ticked off, you fulfilled these many of the list, and so I want you to be happy. You know? But all the people who didn't fulfill that, well, you know, I don't want you to be happy. Yeah. Not only did you not agree with my ideas, but you criticized them. And not only did you, you know, forget my birthday, but you also took my parking space. Yeah, okay, so we have to, you know, level out the playing field, which means making our mind not so ego-sensitive to every small thing everybody does. Yeah, you really see how we have to get over this incredible supersensitivity of, you know, how is everybody treating me? Do they like me? Do they not like me? Are they respecting me enough? Oh, they're not respecting me enough. I have to make them respect me. You know, oh, they don't love me enough. Oh, they're harming me. They're criticizing me. You know, all this, it becomes so difficult to have real love and compassion when all we do is think about ourselves. Duh. You know, it's like so obvious when we think about it. And yet we want to have love and compassion and still hold on to, you know, being super sensitive and, you know, making sure that we are well taken care of. Yeah? But you can see here that even, you know, this is different than the equalizing, exchanging self and others. We're not even doing the disadvantages of self-centeredness and the benefits of cherishing others. But we're seeing even just to have the Mahayana love and compassion, we got to stop being so ego-sensitive. Doesn't work otherwise. Yeah. Okay. And then the sixth cause is called great resolve. And so with love and compassion, we want them to have happiness. We don't want them to suffer. With the great resolve that depends on love and compassion, we are resolved to do something about it. Okay, so we're really going to get involved. Okay, we're going to try and make a difference. And so you're sitting there and it's like, okay, I really want them to be happy. I want them to be free of suffering. I've got to do something. And you look around and you go, what can I do? And who is it that is of the greatest benefit to sentient beings? Because whoever is of great benefit to sentient beings, I want to be like that person because I really want to do something about their situation. So you look around, you know, and who is of the greatest benefit to sentient beings? Yeah? Huh?
A fully awakened being.
A fully awakened being. It's not the president. Yeah? It's not an arhat. It's not even a bodhisattva. They're on the way. You know, it's not a rich person necessarily, you know, or a beautiful person or a person with a lot of power and prestige. It's a fully awakened being, somebody who's really removed the hindrances from their own mind. You know, that person's of the greatest benefit to others. And so then, you know, that's when we generate the bodhicitta. That's when we get the one result, is therefore I want to become a fully enlightened Buddha. Okay, because I'm committed to doing something, to making a difference, to bringing them happiness and eliminating their suffering. And this is the best way to go about doing it. Yeah. So it's not I want to become a Buddha because the Buddha's the highest and I want the highest. And it's not I want to become a Buddha because Buddhas are blissful all the time and I just want to be blissful. Okay. It's the motivations. I want to become a Buddha because it's the best way to be of the most effective service to other sentient beings. Okay. Okay, we have time for a couple of questions. Yes?
So, in the meantime, when we're not a fully awakened being, we get to step 6. We just sort of park ourselves. We still want to do something, but then there's this hesitancy like, well, I could have really messed things up.
Okay, so you're saying, do we get to just kind of step 6 and then we go, you know, I want to do something, but I'm going to mess it up. Okay, I think by the time you get to step 6, you have more self-confidence than that. Yeah, because if you're still thinking, I'm going to mess it up, who are you thinking about?
The I was going to mess it up.
The I that's going to mess it up. Yeah, whereas this whole path is training us to look at others and what their situation is, and to not be so self-conscious about who I am, how do I fit in this situation, am I good enough, am I not good enough, do I rank, how do they treat me, all this stuff that I talked about at the beginning. Okay? That by training ourselves in the bodhicitta and training ourselves in the other steps of the path, you know, we've been developing very strong self-confidence throughout this path. Yeah, so that by the time you get to the great resolve, you know, it's like I can do this and I am going to do it. It's not like, oh, I'm just little old me, and I'll botch it up because I always botch everything up. You know, if we're still so spinning around ourselves in this lack of self-confidence, how do we have the time and energy to look at others and what's going on with them? We don't, do we? Yeah, we might look a little bit at others and, oh, that person's suffering, but our next thought is, oh, but I'm incapable of helping them because I don't have the talents and I don't have the abilities, and, you know, what am I going to do? And I have so much compassion, but I'm always frustrated and I can't carry it out. You know, so you have one moment of compassion, and then the rest of the thing is all about ourselves. So if we have that going on, we really haven't gotten to the 5th and 6th steps yet. Okay? Yeah. So we have to kind of, you know, resolve some of this, you know, constant self-referential talk, you know, and self-consciousness of, you know, how do I fit in, and I'm a jerk, and I'm inept, and, you know, I can't do it, and, you know, bodhisattvas have, you know, whenever His Holiness talks about bodhisattvas, he said, yes, they're meditating on emptiness, you know, so you've also been doing some meditation on emptiness during this time, you know, so they see that there's no inherently existent self, but they have very strong self-confidence. And he says to be a bodhisattva, you need tremendous strong self-confidence, you know. You can't be like, you know, that's not going to work. Okay? Yeah.
I was thinking about this confidence recently, and I was thinking that it was like not the kind of confidence we ever learn about, which is all ego kind of reference. And I was thinking that the value of kindness has a kind of confidence in it.
Yeah.
That there's a method that allows that to manifest.
Okay, so you're saying that we never really learned a proper way to be self-confident. All of the ways we were taught to be self-confident are built on how we rank in external society, you know? Like, are we athletic? Are we good-looking? Are we intelligent? Are we rich? Are we... yeah, it's all about me. Whereas a bodhisattva self-confidence is based on having the Buddha nature. You know, and so you're saying that also recognizing that we've received a lot of kindness helps us have strong self-confidence? Is that what you're saying?
I was thinking even just holding the value. I guess in my mind I was walking the other day and I was kind of weighing it, and I was like, God, you have all this thing about having confidence, but I mean, I guess the only way I could think of confidence in that moment was a kind that didn't seem so valuable. Is it so ego referenced?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, you know, isn't it kind of great that you have more interest in being kind?
Ah, okay. So a way to have develop confidence is to respect yourself because you want to be kind and you're interested in being kind, and that brings a different kind of self-confidence than saying, I'm good at this or I'm good at that.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that gives me the most self-confidence is to think about integrity.
Okay, so to think about having integrity,
Consideration for others.
yeah, those two mental factors of integrity and consideration for others, and really developing those two, that gives you a strong sense of self-confidence. Yeah, I can see how that is.
Something that's the right basis for it.
Yep.
Rather than what
Right. Yeah, so developing self-confidence on something that is the proper basis for being self-confident. And so if you have integrity, you know, respecting yourself as an ethical person and not wanting to be unethical, you know, and having consideration for others, realizing that your actions affect them and not wanting to disillusion them, you know, and harm them.
falls away from both of those,
Mm-hmm.
you can pull it back.
And that you could pull your mind back to that, and that you can develop kindness and care and concern for others. And that gives you a sense of self-confidence. Yeah. Yeah. That gives us a lot more self-confidence than, you know, I got an A in my French class, or, you know, I'm captain of the football team, or I won a medal, or I, you know, whatever it is. Yeah.
And going off of Venerable Tarpas, I find out that the less I think about myself, the more self-confident I become.
Okay. So, yeah.
Because there's a whole strategizing that takes all of my time, thinking all of this thing about how to fit in and what do people think and how am I going to get my way and things like that. is that it's on such shaky ground, because I don't know the answer. None of those questions ever get answered the way I want them anyway. So when I put that aside and just let go of that self-concern about how am I doing, and just care about what I'm doing.
Right. Okay. This is very good. If you let go of all this self-conscious worry about how am I doing and do I fit in and am I qualified and am I good enough and did I botch it, you know, and instead of that, just do it with a heart of care, then there you are. And you don't need to worry about it.
And the self gets totally put into second place when the care comes up. And it's not about just caring for others, it's actually caring about oneself.
Yeah.
Even brings the self, that self-obsession, and puts it in the back too.
So you're saying caring about ourselves in a healthy way helps us let go of the self-obsession.
And builds up the self-confidence, because if I'm ever going to be able to benefit others, I've got to be clear, I've got to be balanced, I've got to have the integrity, I've got to have the, all of my good qualities, I've got to have some sort of stable place so that then I can really benefit. You know, they're so interconnected on how I have self-confidence about my own qualities that I'm working on, and then how that is to contribute.
Yeah.
Its sole purpose is to not only bring me peace, but to really be able to facilitate that for others.
Okay. So when you're concerned with developing your own qualities and not self-conscious about evaluating
What they are
and how you fit in, then it flows and you're actually developing your qualities. You know? Yeah. Okay, so I think there's a lot to think about this week. Okay.
May the
Spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual masters be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losong's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Due to this merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish.